late-night glow of my phone was my only company. My wife, Sarah, was in Miami for a critical business conference. Her text from hours ago was short: "Swamped, babe. Talk tomorrow. Love you." I was just about to close my eyes when the notification lit up the screen. Instagram, a photo tag. The account belonged to some slick-haired finance type named Marco. The picture was a sun-drenched beach, 2 champagne flutes clinking. And there, laughing under a palm tree, was Sarah. The caption read, "Another perfect day in paradise with my love." My world didn't just crack. It atomized. That single photo wasn't a mistake. It was a declaration of war. My name is David Miller. At 46, my life is about structure. As a senior partner at Northwood Architectural Group, I designed skyscrapers to withstand 100-year storms. My marriage to Sarah was supposed to be my magnum opus. 15 years. We designed our life with meticulous care. The painstakingly restored Chicago brownstone, the shared dreams sketched out on cocktail napkins that we kept in a memory box. She was the vibrant heart of my world, the one who chose the art for the walls I built. She'd often joke, "You build the bones, David. I give it a soul." We were a team, a landmark, the couple everyone pointed to as the ideal. But staring at her smile in that photo, a carefree, genuine smile I hadn't seen directed at me in years, I saw the truth. Our foundation wasn't stone, it was sand, and this man Marco was the tide, washing it all away. She hadn't just cheated. She'd condemned our entire life's work and handed a stranger the demolition permit. A cold, quiet rage began to set in my bones, stronger than any concrete I'd ever poured. That cold rage didn't burn, it crystallized. It became a blueprint in my mind, stark and precise. I stood up from the bed, the phone still hot in my hand, and walked to the window overlooking the Chicago skyline, a city I helped shape. I looked for logic, for the structural flaw I'd missed. An architect doesn't miss a fatal flaw. The signs had been there, of course. They always are. Small fissures I'd papered over with trust. It started about 2 years ago, right after my Northwood partnership was announced. I was working 80-hour weeks, buried in schematics for the Harrison Tower, my legacy project. I thought I was building our future. Sarah said she was proud, but her eyes started to look past me, searching for something more exciting than my talk of load-bearing walls and zoning permits. Her career in luxury PR, once a side passion, suddenly became an all-consuming whirlwind of networking. The business trips grew more frequent. First, it was long weekends. Then, entire weeks. "It's for us, David," she'd say, kissing me with a distracted air. "I'm making connections that will set us up for life." I wanted to believe her. It was easier than admitting the woman who chose the art for our walls now saw me as part of the wallpaper. The money was the clearest sign. I handle our finances, always have. 3 months ago, a charge for a suite at the Pendry in Manhattan. She said the conference organizers put her there. A lie. Her conference was at the Marriott. 2 months ago, a $5,000 charge at a boutique called Elysian. A corporate gift for a new client. She'd explained breezily, hiding the shopping bag before I could see what was inside. I didn't question it. I was finalizing a multi-million-dollar contract and her expenses seemed trivial, a rounding error in the grand design of our life. The night before she left for Miami, she'd been different, almost tender. She'd traced the lines on my face, a sad little smile playing on her lips. "You work too hard," she'd whispered. "Promise me you'll take a break soon." It wasn't a request. It was an absolution. She was absolving herself of guilt. Then she held me tight and said the words that now echoed in my head like a demolition charge. "This trip is so important, babe. It's going to change everything." She was right. It did change everything. Staring at the city lights, I finally saw the truth. She hadn't just been cheating. She and Marco had been funding their affair with my money. With my money. The foundation hadn't just cracked. She'd been systematically dynamiting the support pillars for months. My rage was no longer just about the betrayal of my heart, but the violation of my life's work. She didn't want a soul for the bones I built. She just wanted to sell the copper wiring for scrap. The architect in me was dead. But the demolition expert was just getting started. I didn't sleep. Sleep is for men whose worlds are stable. Mine was a demolition site, and I was the foreman. I moved from the window to my office, the heart of our brownstone, a room paneled in dark walnut that Sarah had once said felt like a hug. Now it felt like a coffin. I sat at my desk and pulled up Marco's Instagram page on my monitor. It was public, arrogant, a digital monument to a life of unearned confidence. His bio simply read, investor, philanthropist, living the dream. My dream, I thought. He was living calmer dream. I scrolled back. Months, years. It was all there, a meticulously documented timeline of my wife's secret life. A ski trip to Aspen in February. The same week, Sarah had a PR crisis in Denver. A wine-tasting tour in Napa last fall, while I was pulling an all-nighter to meet a deadline. He never showed her face, not until tonight. He was clever, I'll give him that. He used artistic shots, the back of her head overlooking a vineyard, her hand holding a glass of wine, her silhouette against a sunset. But I knew her hands. I knew the curve of her neck. I knew my wife. The tag tonight wasn't an accident. It was a power play. A final, dismissive flick to the man he was replacing. The rage was a tool now. I channeled it into focus. I opened our joint bank accounts and credit card statements in a new window. My fingers flew across the keyboard, creating a spreadsheet. Columns for date, location, expense, and a new one, justification. I cross-referenced every suspicious charge from the past 2 years with Marco's Instagram feed. The $5,000 charge at Elysian Jewelers? A week later, a photo on Marco's feed showed his wrist adorned with a new, ostentatious Breitling watch. The corporate gift was for him. The suite at the Pendry in Manhattan? It matched a weekend he'd posted about. Captioned, "Concrete jungle where dreams are made of." My wife's dreams, apparently. The charges were a map of their affair, paid for by the Harrison Tower project. I was building a skyscraper to fund my own cuckolding. The irony was so bitter it felt like swallowing glass. Then I found it. The linchpin. 3 weeks ago. A $50,000 wire transfer. Not to an airline or a hotel. It was sent to a numbered company. MV Holdings, LLC. I did a quick search. The LLC was registered in Delaware, a ghost. But the signatory on the public registration documents wasn't a ghost. Marco Valenti. My phone buzzed on the desk. The screen lit up with her face. Sarah. I took a breath, letting the architect take over. Calm facade. Structural integrity, I answered. Hey, babe. I was just thinking about you. Her voice was bright, artificial. Oh, David, I'm so sorry I didn't call sooner. This conference is just back to back to back. I'm exhausted. Don't worry about it, I said, my voice smooth as polished marble. I stared at the $50,000 transfer on my screen. Just wanted to hear your voice. Are you learning a lot? Tons. It's been incredibly productive, she chirped. Met some amazing people. This could be huge for us. Us. The word twisted in my gut. That's fantastic, honey. I'm proud of you. I let a moment of silence hang, a carefully placed load-bearing pause. Hey, that big networking dinner you mentioned, is that tonight? A flicker of hesitation. Oh. No, that was last night. Tonight's just a quiet one. I'm probably just going to order room service and crash. I looked at the picture of her on the beach, the sun setting behind her and Marco, posted just 2 hours ago. Good, I said, my tone warm, paternal. You deserve the rest. You work so hard for us. I do, she whispered, the lie catching in her throat. I love you, David. I love you too, Sarah, I replied, and hung up. I stared at the screen, the warmth. The click of the phone ending the call was the loudest sound in the house. I love you too. The words tasted like ash. I didn't wipe my screen. I didn't close the browser. I saved the spreadsheet. I named the file Project Nightingale, after Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, because for the first time in 15 years, I was finally seeing in the dark. I backed it up to a secure cloud server, encrypted it, and then emailed a copy to a private address I had created just minutes before. Redundancy. The first rule of any sound structure. My hands were perfectly steady. There was no tremor of rage, no jolt of grief. That was gone, burned away, leaving behind something cold, pure, and efficient. I was no longer a husband. I was a structural engineer, assessing a building for controlled demolition. And I had found the critical flaw, the place where the charges had to be set. MV Holdings, LLC. $50,000. That wasn't just an affair, that was a conspiracy to defraud. She hadn't just broken a vow, she had committed a felony, and she'd used our joint account to do it. That was her fatal mistake. I walked to the kitchen and started a pot of coffee. The familiar ritual grounded me. The smell of dark roast filled the air, a scent of normalcy in a life that was now anything but. I would need to be normal for a few more days. I needed to be the loving, slightly clueless, overworked husband she expected to come home to. The act had to be flawless. She was an expert liar, but I was a master of facades. My entire career was built on them. As the coffee dripped, I pulled out my phone again. I didn't look at Instagram. I looked at my contacts. My finger hovered over the name of my divorce attorney, but I bypassed it. Too soon. That was the final swing of the wrecking ball. I was still setting the charges. I scrolled further down and found the name I was looking for. Liam, my personal banker at a private wealth firm, a man whose entire existence revolved around numbers, discretion, and legality. I dialed. He answered on the second ring, his voice crisp even after midnight. David, is everything all right? Everything's fine, Liam, I said, my voice as calm as the still, dark water of Lake Michigan. But I need to make some structural changes to my financial portfolio immediately. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Liam was a man who processed risk in milliseconds. He heard the calm in my voice and knew it was more dangerous than any panic. Of course, David, he said, his own tone shifting from concern to clinical. What kind of changes are we talking about? A new foundation, I said, walking back to my office and sitting at the desk. I looked at the spreadsheet, Project Nightingale, glowing on the monitor. I need you to open a new private account. My name only. By morning, I want all non-communal assets transferred. My inheritance from my father, my premarital investment portfolio, and the bonus from the Northwood Partnership. Every liquid cent that is legally and exclusively mine. David, that's a significant move, Liam said, the sound of typing clicking softly in the background. To do it this quickly, is Sarah aware? Sarah is occupied, I said, the words precise. Let's just say I've identified a catastrophic structural flaw in my current arrangements. I'm not blowing up the building, Liam. I'm shoring up the part of the foundation that's still sound before the rot spreads. You understand? He understood the language of money and power. I understand completely. I'll handle it personally. You'll have a confirmation email with the new account details by 8 a.m. Is there anything else? One more thing. I leaned forward, my voice dropping. A specific transaction. I need you to pull the full diligence file on it, discreetly. A wire transfer from our joint savings account 3 weeks ago. $50,000. The recipient was MV Holdings LLC. More typing. A longer pause. I see it, Liam said. Authorized via mobile app. A simple transfer. There's nothing simple about it, I replied. I need to know everything about that LLC. Who owns it, its officers, its registered address, its bank. I want the entire blueprint, Liam. I'm not filing a fraud claim, not yet. I'm just auditing the contractors. Consider it done, Liam said, his voice now ablaze. I'll have a preliminary report for you by end of day tomorrow. Quote, we hung up. For the first time in 12 hours, a sliver of control returned. The rage was still there, a cold pilot light in my gut, but it was now fueling a meticulously designed engine of destruction. I minimized the spreadsheet and the bank statements. My house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a crime scene. I looked at the minimalist Italian sofa Sarah had insisted on, the abstract painting she'd bought at a gallery auction, the hand-blown glass vase on the mantelpiece. Were they gifts of love, or trophies from a victory I knew nothing about? Every object was tainted, recontextualized by her betrayal. She hadn't just given our home a soul, she'd sold it. My phone chimed. A text from Sarah. It was a picture of a single, elegantly crafted cocktail sitting on a dark wood bar, a lime twist perched on the rim. The lighting was intimate, moody. It was not a hotel room service tray. The text read, last one for the road. This conference has been a marathon. Can't wait to be home in your arms. Sleep well, my love. Exos teats. The lie was so audacious, so casual, it was almost breathtaking. She was sitting in a bar with him right now, texting me lies while he paid the check with my $50,000. The architect in me admired the sheer nerve of the facade. I took a breath and typed back, my fingers steady. Looks delicious, you deserve it. Get some rest, I miss you more. I paused, then added the final, perfect touch. The keystone in the arch of my deception. Biggs was just looking at flights for our anniversary. Found an amazing private villa in Tuscany we could rent for 2 weeks. Let's book it the second you're back. I hit send. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. I wasn't just feigning ignorance. I was dangling the future she thought she was still entitled to. I was reinforcing her belief that her secret was safe, that the clueless husband was waiting at home, dreaming of a future she had already bulldozed. Let her feel secure. Let her feel confident. The higher the climb, the longer the fall. I closed the text thread and opened a new browser window. I didn't search for divorce lawyers. Divorce was a negotiation between equals. This was not that. This was a demolition. I typed, Chicago's top forensic accountants and asset recovery specialists. Then I added another search, best high-asset litigation attorney, financial malfeasance. The results populated the screen. I scrolled past the big, familiar law firms. I was looking for a specialist, a shark. And then I found her. A name on a boutique firm's website. Jessica Russo. Her bio was short, brutal, and effective. Former federal prosecutor, specialized in complex financial crimes. Her picture showed a woman about my age with sharp eyes that promised no quarter. Her firm's tagline wasn't about finding resolution, it was securing your assets, enforcing your rights. I didn't call, not yet. I saved her profile to the Project Nightingale folder. Liam was my financial weapon. Jessica Russo would be my legal one. Phase 1 was complete. Secure the perimeter. Identify the weak points. Phase 2 was about to begin. Gather the demolition crew. I shut down the computer and walked to the window. The lights of the Harrison Tower, my tower, blinked in the distance. I had built it to last for centuries. I would dismantle Sarah's life with the same meticulous, enduring precision. The next 2 days were a masterclass in deception. I went to work, chaired meetings, and approved schematics for the Harrison Tower with unnerving calm. By the time Sarah's flight was scheduled to land, Liam's work was complete. My personal assets were firewalled. His preliminary report on MV Holdings LLC sat in my encrypted inbox, a digital bomb waiting for its detonator. The $50,000 wasn't for a watch. It was a down payment. The wire transfer document Liam procured included a reference number that cross-referenced with a sales agreement for a penthouse condo in Miami Beach. A $2 million property. The buyers listed were Marco Valenti and Sarah Miller. They weren't just having an affair, they were building a new life on a foundation of my money. When she walked through the door of our brownstone, she looked radiant, sun-kissed and utterly oblivious. I played my part to perfection. I wrapped her in an embrace, the scent of her perfume mixed with the faint, lingering smell of expensive sunscreen. "Welcome home, honey," I murmured into her hair. "I missed you like crazy." "I missed you more," she lied, her voice muffled against my chest. She pulled back, holding out a small, elegantly wrapped box. A little something from the conference gift shop. It was a pair of silver cufflinks, generic and impersonal. The kind of thing you buy when you've forgotten to buy something. "They're beautiful, Sarah. Thank you." I smiled, a perfect, hollow smile, while picturing her and Marco laughing as they picked them out. That evening, I let her talk, spinning tales of keynote speakers and networking events. I'd nod, ask the right questions, and pour her a glass of wine. Then, I set the trap. I walked over to the coffee table and laid out the travel brochures for Tuscany. Her eyes widened. "Oh, David, you remembered." "How could I forget our anniversary?" I said, sitting beside her on the sofa she'd chosen. I pointed to a picture of a sun-drenched villa. "This one's available. Private pool, a chef, views for miles. I thought we deserved it. A real escape, just the two of us." She traced the photo with her finger, her expression a mixture of genuine desire and, I suspected, relief. The clueless, devoted husband was still here. Her safety net was intact. "It's perfect," she whispered, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Let's book it. First thing next week." I promised. I felt the warmth of her body against mine and felt nothing but ice. The demolition was on schedule. The next afternoon, I walked into the downtown office of Jessica Russo. The space was minimalist, steel and glass, with a stunning view of the skyline I had helped build. There was no clutter, no sentimentality, just efficiency. Jessica Russo was the same. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She didn't offer coffee or pleasantries. "Mr. Miller," she said, gesturing to a chair, "your email was intriguing. You said you have a file." I didn't speak. I simply slid a single black USB drive across the polished table. It was labeled Nightingale. She plugged it into her laptop, her expression unreadable. For 10 minutes, the only sound was the soft click of her mouse as she navigated my meticulously organized evidence, the spreadsheet, the geotagged Instagram photos, the credit card statements, the doctored expense reports, and finally, Liam's diligence report on MV Holdings, complete with the condo sales agreement. When she was done, she slowly turned the laptop screen back towards me. On it was the picture of Sarah and Marco on the beach. "A picture is worth 1,000 words, she said, her voice low and steady. "This file is a multi-volume encyclopedia." She leaned back, her eyes locking onto mine. There was no pity in them, only a cold, professional fire. "Most people come to me with suspicion and anger. You've come to me with a conviction. What is it you want, Mr. Miller?" "Justice," I said, the words solid and heavy. "Not just a divorce. I want to dismantle them. I want to take back every cent they stole. I want to burn their new life to the ground before they can even move in." A slow, thin smile touched her lips. It was terrifying. "Good," she said, "because a standard divorce filing is for amateurs. It's a plea for fairness. We're not going to be fair." She swiveled back to her computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "They didn't just commit adultery, Mr. Miller. They engaged in a pattern of racketeering. The wire transfer, the shell company, the conspiracy to defraud you of assets for their joint enterprise, the condo. That's not a marital issue. That's a federal crime. She looked up at me, her eyes glinting. We're not going to file for divorce. Not yet. First, we're going to file a civil RICO suit, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. We'll file an emergency motion to freeze every asset they have, his company, his bank accounts, her personal accounts. We'll seize the condo before they can close. We'll subpoena their communications, every text, every email. We will expose their entire conspiracy in a federal filing that will become a permanent, public stain on their names. By the time your wife is served, she won't have a penny to her name to fight back. Marco Valenti, the slick investor, will be Marco Valenti, the defendant in a racketeering case. We're not just taking away their new house, Mr. Miller. We're taking away their future. Are you prepared for that? I looked at her, at the city skyline behind her, and felt a strange sense of peace. The rage had been a fuel, but this was the destination. It was the moment an architect looks at a condemned, rotten structure and feels no remorse about bringing it down. It was about restoring integrity. Yes, I said, my voice unwavering. I am. That night I came home to find Sarah on the sofa, her laptop open, a glass of wine in her hand. She smiled brightly, the picture of domestic bliss. Look, she said, pointing to the screen. I made a whole itinerary for Tuscany. Wine tasting, cooking classes. It's going to be perfect. Sounds amazing, I said, playing the part of the devoted husband one last time. She looked up at me, her expression turning serious, businesslike. I was just looking at the booking details. If we really want to secure it, they need a $50,000 deposit. She took a sip of wine. I can move some funds around from my personal savings to cover it. We can wire it tomorrow. The number hung in the air between us. $50,000. The exact amount she'd wired to Marco for their future. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. She wasn't just lying. She was trying to get me to unknowingly replenish the funds she had stolen, using our anniversary trip as the cover. In that instant, any lingering shadow of the man I was, the husband who mourned, vanished completely. This wasn't about a broken heart anymore. It was about a calculated predatory attack on my life. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a resource to be drained, a mark to be played. And in her arrogance, she had just handed me the detonator. This was my moral victory. The quiet, internal confirmation that what I was about to do was not just revenge. It was justice. I leaned down and kissed the top of her head. That's a great idea, honey. Let me go to my office and check my accounts. I'll handle it. I walked into So I have the screenshot of the vacation photo, and she still has no idea that I know. What would you advise my very next move to be?